Hey everybody, it's Tuesday.
And welcome to the first of this week's edition of the Night Bite.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And we're here talking all kinds of ice
Hey Chuck.
fishing and Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo. All of that good stuff is coming up here.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, we normally start our Night Bite sessions here with a fishing report. And this week's fishing report is going to look a lot different because, to be honest, we were not only not on local waters, but we were not even on U.S. waters.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to go to a wedding that was down in Cancun. And the funny thing about being an angler is that anytime you travel, you want to go fishing wherever you go. And so a lot of times these destinations will, I don't know, offer different guided trips. And a lot of times you see deep sea fishing, deep sea fishing. And I don't know if that's because everybody wants to go and catch a marlin, because that is cool, right? I'm not knocking that. But, to do some of these other types of fishing, you have to really seek out those spots. So we were able to do that. We went off resort a little bit. We took a taxi to Cancun,
Well,
Cancun
it's
tarpon fishing. I
it's
can't remember what it's called, but that's the
Cancun
website.
fly fishing and
And
light
light
tackle
tackle.
fishing.
Yeah, because the cool thing is we were able to go and fish a whole bunch of the flats.
Mhm.
And so, it was a guided trip through all the mangrove trees. Is that what you call them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's such a unique adventure because, a lot of times by us, we see cool wildlife or things happen as you're out there. But the adventure was different. We saw flamingos and we saw stingrays and we saw
Gators.
oh yeah, like all kinds of stuff. And that's part of why you go with a guide is because some of that honestly is dangerous if you're out that on your own. And we saw some kayakers, and that's cool if you have that adventure too. But I was glad that we were in that boat.
Yeah, it was really fun. There's a lot of cool firsts for us. I've never got to witness cast netting in the first hand, so that was really fun for our guide to go out and
Caught tons of bait.
we scouted bait first, so that was interesting in and of itself. Then he threw the net a few times. We got to scoop the bait off the deck, throw it in the live well. All that's really fun experience in combination with the sight fishing. There's a lot of calling out between 9 and 3 anywhere in front of the boat, and then sometimes you'd be looking so hard, and then it'd be like 7 o'clock, and it's like, what? That's behind me. So no, that was really fun being able to sharpshoot fish like that with plastics in the morning and live bait in the afternoon, and some really cool stuff in between. And yeah, fun adventure.
It was a fun adventure. I imagine that we will talk about it a little bit more on Thursday because as we are here this Tuesday talking about ice fishing, we'll be here Thursday as well. But with that, our ice fishing conditions are not looking favorable. When we left for our trip, we heard that there was snow. Different place in Wisconsin got like 4 inches. And that was looking really great for winter because even the snow, as much as we kind of hate it a little bit, it keeps bringing those water temperatures down. And that's part of what adds to those first layers of ice.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long if it's gonna be windy, it might as well be warm because we like to have a few cold days, get that nice layer on there before the wind really whacks on it, and then after that, smooth sailing. So let's keep the snow and the wind away, get some cold in here.
Let's try our best. We have Chuck checking in the comments section, asking if you're going to be getting the new Amped Outdoors hoodie, and probably. But if you don't know what he's talking about, let's bring in somebody who does have it on. So let's welcome our guest for tonight's show,
Let's do that.
Matt. And nice connection and great hoodie.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, supported that new hoodie that came in about a week ago.
Yeah, sure.
The amount of sales that we've had on one hoodie. Everybody likes the crazy colors and stuff, but we decided to do something a little bit more neutral, and we've gotten a good response from that. So we will be. I put in 2 more orders, kind of some rush orders to get more of them. So hopefully we'll have some at the shows for people to buy if they're interested. Nice, warm, and at $40, you can't really beat that.
Nice.
Well, and that's awesome that it's a product that people know and love so much because, quite frankly, it's not even what you're known or loved for. So I should say, welcome to the show, Amped Outdoors, and can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, no, we're definitely not an apparel company, but yeah, we appreciate all the advertisement out there. No, we're definitely Lithium battery company, and we've been doing this for it feels like quite a long time now. I mean, we're going on, I think it is our, if I get that corrected, it is our 7th ice fishing season where we've had batteries dedicated for you, the ice angler, or for those of you who are not ice anglers watching the show, you're welcome. Hopefully learn a little bit about that, but we've got a lot of product out there for open water as well. But we're going to focus, I think, this session on ice because it's hopefully going to be here soon. And these warm temperatures don't look in favor for it. It was nice to see a skim over a pond in front of our house last week, and you guys missed that cold rush. But yeah, I think we're gonna have some warm weather, and let's pray that we've got some ice, or we got some ice forming for right around St. Paul or after that, and then of course we want everybody to go to the Wisconsin Fishing Expo and see us. And then load up on your gear there so you can get out on some safe ice right after. But yeah, lithium batteries, they're kind of been the big talk over the last few years in all industries. And we're just so honored to be part of the industry, have such a wide assortment for fishing electronics, lightweight products that you can bring out on the ice. And really enhance that experience out on the ice. So we've been dedicated to engineering specifically to you, the ice angler. And hopefully we can answer some of those questions today that people have or unknowns. I can say that in the last few years, we have to do a lot less selling on lithium because people are more familiar with them. And that's why we're here. We're here to educate because it is such a great way to enhance your experience out in the water. And, all those things that people thought in the past, oh, they were too expensive or, they may not be safe and all of that. We've kind of squashed all those rumors and so on. And yeah, you're going to pay more for a technology like this, but it's an investment and definitely pays off pretty quick.
Well, and I think part of the thing is that you've taken, the small, 12-volt batteries. You've increased their capacity and decreased their weight and really made them an all-season tool in my mind. Like we use them for, power packs for camping. We use them for additional power in the boat. We use them for additional power while we're ice camping, when we're out on the ice to run lights and electronics. So, I mean, I think it's one of those things that I don't think you can ever have enough of, and being able to carry more of it is always great. And you're helping everybody do that.
Yeah. That's exactly. I mean, you use them year round. I've seen people putting them in Power Wheels, and this time of year, we've seen a surge of people using them for their trail cameras up here pretty much nationwide. But I mean, up here in the north, just something that you don't have to go out and change your batteries as often. Just put a nice big battery out there to run that equipment for weeks or months on time. But yeah, as our technology advances, we're seeing more people getting forward-facing sonar, and you're not just bringing a standard flasher out on the ice anymore. Your Vexilar, Markhams they're still popular today, but people are using larger screens, 5 and 7 inch screens. They're using forward-facing sonar. I'm starting to see more people use 10 inch and 12 inch screens ice fishing, and you weren't really able to do that before with lead acid batteries because they don't give you the operating time you need, or you'd have to carry so many batteries with you to power them for a given day. And you just didn't want to carry around that extra space. And with the lithium batteries, you can do that.
So the funny thing about lithium, I guess you were kind of talking about this when we first started the show here. This it feels like new technology still to some people. And you're talking about, oh, I feel like I've been around forever now. And it does feel like that too. I was laughing. I bumped into one of our oldest videos the other day, and boy, do we both like look young. I guess I didn't realize it was that long ago.
If anybody out there can go find that,
It's
it's
on
on
YouTube.
YouTube.
It is so funny.
Go unbury that. It's a gem. I think that was one of my favorite interviews in my memory, because Matt and Emily are both like cute little sheepish, like, oh,
We're both pretty
new
quiet.
to the industry. And now look at them both. They both blossomed into awesome icons.
Well, I don't know well, I'm not an
Right.
icon, but at least I don't. Yeah, it's definitely this. This has aged me over the years, but I tell you what, I don't have gray hairs yet, so I can't.
But I mean, I think that's exactly part of the point, though, is because there's people out there though, and lithium is like brand new to them, but their best friend has already had this for so long that it's like old news. And so I think a lot of times people don't know where to start. So like, what are some of the basic questions that we should ask when we are getting to know or switching to lithium technology?
Yeah, so we're not explaining as much anymore as, why you should buy a lithium versus buying a lead acid. It's more so people are coming up and they're saying which one. So one of the first things we did, probably year two, 6 years ago, is we came out with an operating time chart that's up on our website. And we put the ice fishing one up right on the front page. You scroll down past all the batteries and you'll see this big operating time chart. And what's cool about that is it'll list all of your popular electronics, whether you have a basic flasher or, Helix 5 or 7, all the way up to your forward facing sonar units. And it'll tell you how much power they draw, which really to most people can be confusing. It doesn't make any sense. So what we did is we put in there each one of our batteries. And then if you pair it up with that piece of electronics, how long you would expect that to last per charge. And there you go. That's awesome. So the most popular ice fishing electronics are on there, and you'll see the batteries, and in the green text, in the highlighted in green, those are the ones that'll fit those units. So, and a lot of people have aftermarket shuttles now, so it really doesn't matter, but that'll fit the stock units that you buy, and give you expected operating time. So you can just see like your basic Vexlar, which is still probably the most popular most used item out on the ice today. Most of those in the small 7.5 15 amp hour battery, you're looking 30 to 60 plus hours of operation, compared to your standard lead acid batteries, which in a lot of cases are half to a third of that. So it's a really nice tool, because if you're the weekend warrior, you can find that battery that'll last you 2 to 3 days out in the ice. Or if you're the person who only gets to make it out, 1 day a month, like me, you may not want to carry that extra weight. You go the smaller battery that's just a little bit lighter, and it'll get you through a full day. So that's a great tool to use. We bring that to all of the shows, and we can discuss that a little bit more. But that's probably the best tool to use to find out which one fits your needs.
That's way awesome.
Yeah.
The nice thing about this also is, as we were talking about the expos coming up, the nice thing about seeing you is that we can actually ask you these questions. It's one thing to, have a graph and, attach it, but then all of a sudden you're like, well, will it fit my shuttle? Will it do this? Will it do that? And like you're saying, that you are also an ice fisherman, and you also have a fabulous staff of ice fishermen that come and hang out at your booth. And so even if you have like really specific gear questions, the nice thing is that's something that usually your staff has, come in contact to and can speak about.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, we have a fantastic staff, and we're split up like I think it's next weekend. We have 3 separate shows that we're doing. So we split our staff up, and they're all trained on this technology, been using it for a long time and can speak to it. So if you ever see anybody, or if you get a chance to go to a show, that's a great place to ask all of your questions, because we have, all the batteries there you can feel and touch. And we're in a lot of your major retailers too, your Thorn Brothers, Shields, are their 2 main retailers. And then we kind of have a lot of smaller shops just across the ice belt carrying our products today. So you can go in there and really talk to even a dedicated employee there who knows a lot about our product because they've gone through our training, and also get your hands on the product. Because I think once you feel how light they are, compare that to the time charts. It's a real easy decision, as far as what to get. And then, talking to one of the experts who I know a lot of people ask about like charging and all that, just make sure when you do buy a lithium battery, no matter what brand you buy out there, hopefully it's ours, make sure you get the proper charger for that battery. It's really important to pair up, the two, so that way you can get the most out of the experience.
You were mentioning the retailers and stuff that have these batteries, and I'm kind of laughing because sometimes as a consumer, you go and you check out like a floor model or something, and then you always wonder, like, is this a working unit or not? And that's like so funny and applicable to the lithium batteries, because it's so easy for somebody to go and like pick up a floor model and be like, this is obviously a dud and not real, like, because it's so light. But the amazing thing is that that is the technology that's in those batteries. And I feel like every time we talk to you, I tell the story. And so I'm sorry. I'm sorry if people have heard it. But the first time that we put an amped battery in my Vexlar, I did not know that Josh did that. And it was not until we were out on the ice and I went and I picked up my unit and I almost fell over. I was like, I brought this thing out here without a battery in it. I was honestly like so upset. And Josh like told me to like look at it. And I didn't even, it was so light. I didn't know that there was a battery in it.
Yep. Yeah. That's pretty popular. Like in your Vexlar units, I know I have the same thing where, you throw like a little 7.5 amp hour battery. It weighs under 2 pounds. So it's really light. I got a couple of staff guys who, I've talked to sometimes, be careful, but they'll even like almost throw it, or they'll throw it to a customer to catch. And they're kind of like shocked, I guess I don't care if they happen to drop it, it shouldn't break, but, it catches them by surprise on how light it is. But putting it in my Vexlar alone, you really dropping that weight in half. And that makes a big difference, especially that person that's out there all day, hole hopping. And I mean, it really does save on your arm when you're carrying that around all day long, or, early ice that you want to pack as light as possible. But yeah, we get that question all the time. Oh, I can't be a real unit. No, that's real. What you see at our shows, or when you go to a retail store and pick that item up, that's what you get.
Well, and so with the units being so light and portable, I mean, I guess this is a silly question, but like, where's the end of the power? Because it's so easy to want to, well, then I'll just carry a bigger battery. I'll just carry a bigger battery. It's so, is there a certain point where you're like overloading? Or, is it about fitting the unit to the battery, or just like, if you want a big battery, like, go for it?
Yeah, if you want a big battery, go for it. Sometimes I've had people say that. It's like, am I buying too large of a battery, right? And there's really no such thing as buying too large of a battery. When you buy a larger battery, it just gives you longer operating time. There's more capacity in it. So, yeah, I mean, but I've seen, on the other side too, where people will think they have to buy this giant battery, and, they charge it every single use, and they might only be using 5 to 10% of it every single time. And it's kind of a waste. So, I'm not that guy that likes to oversell stuff. But and get you into a bigger battery, and, when a smaller one works, I'm going to make that recommendation where I see fit. But, I can tell you this, if you're ever leaning between two, just get the larger one. And the reason why I say that is no one ever wished they had less capacity. I've had people wish they had more, right? And things do change. So what you have today may not be what you have tomorrow, right? So many people are getting into forward-facing sonar, and they buy, what they can afford, that smaller unit. And then as things advance and sales come up, then they buy a larger unit, and now they're having to go out and buy a new battery to power that for a given day. So, it's wise to think about it, what you want to get for the future. Or if you're going to use it in other applications, say during the summer months, get one that'll definitely fit your unit. But also get one that's going to ensure that you never have to worry about it. Because that's the nice thing about lithium, is that, you don't have to check the voltage throughout the day. If you pair it up correctly, you should know you're never going to have to run out.
Well, and definitely when you're at the shows, or if you're talking with people out on the ice, like, just chat with them and see what they've done with their batteries too. Because since Emily's story with picking up the shuttle, and since then we both have upgraded our batteries. We put them into the tournament style hole hopper buckets. I believe I have a 32 amp hour for my FL20 that I've ran that thing for 3 days straight, like camping, and still had juice left over, and like not turned it off. Like when I say straight, you just turn it on and you just walk around, fish all day, put it back in, and it's running. Go to sleep, running. So it's like it's crazy how much you can be creative with it and still have like those kinds of things available to you.
Sure, absolutely. No, you're spot on. When it comes down to it, as far as I can make some quick recommendations, because I know there's a lot of people out there who might be just thinking, well, what's the best for me? So just a quick rundown. So I have two in front of me here. This is 7.5 amp hour, and this is a 15 amp hour. Your stock battery that'll come in a lot of your, let's just say a Flash or a Vexilar, right? They come with a 9 amp hour lead acid battery. So what a lot of people don't understand is that 9 amp hours in a lead acid battery does not mean you're getting 9 amp hours of usable capacity, right? That's, how full that tank is when you talk about amp hours, right? How much it can hold. So when it comes to a lead acid battery, you usually get about half of that, maybe a little bit more. So a 9 amp hour lead acid battery will probably give you about 5 usable amp hours. With lithium, all of ours are 100% efficient. So a 9 amp hour lead acid battery is 5 amp hours. Our lithium 7.5 amp hour battery is actually going to last longer. So that's where efficiency factor comes in, and you get longer operating times on it. So even like a 15 amp hour battery is really 3 times the operating time or 3 times the capacity of a 9 amp hour lead acid battery. So that's one unknown out there. And it's good advice. It's good to know that when looking at this, because some people just swear that, I bought this big battery and this lithium battery just never dies. It never dies. Well, yeah, that's why. It's because they're so much more efficient. So 7.5, 15 amp hour battery. Those are the two that I'm going to recommend for most flashers out there. Your Markhams, Humminbird Ice, 35, 45, 55, and your Vexilar units. A lot of people are getting, have like the 5 and 7 inch screens now, maybe even a 9 inch screen. Don't have forward facing sonar yet, just your standard transducer. That's where that 15 amp hour battery comes in. In this form factor, it's pretty much the highest capacity battery you'll get. That's the same size as your stock lead acid, 15 amp hours. So that's going to be your most popular one for one of those. And then sometimes you can get into the larger ones. Like we have a 20 amp hour. I think this is the one that you may have, that 32 amp hour. Yep. Those are more popular in your forward facing sonars. So let's just say a 9 inch Garmin Live Scope, 20 amp hour battery, upwards of 12 hours of operation. And then, we've got these other big ones too. So 30 amp hour, 32 amp hour, those are going to give you closer to 20 hours of operation. And then a big 48 amp hour battery. This thing's a beast at only 7 pounds, can operate a forward-facing sonar for over 30 hours on the ice. So, pretty unbelievable. So we've got a wide array of them. Like I said, reference that operating time chart on our website and fit guide, and that'll kind of help you pick out the right one for you. So we like to say we have pretty much the battery for everybody.
Okay, so I agree with you. There probably is a battery for everyone. We have Dwayne here that has a similar question to what I was thinking of. So as far as, you go to the Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo, you have a great time, you pick up the amp battery because that's going to be awesome. But then the thing is that you want to care for it. So first of all, are these the type of batteries that you have to run all the way down before you charge them? Can you just plug them back in every day? I want to know about that maintenance. But then Dwayne is also asking if there's a number of charges that you can get. Like, how often will you have to replace these batteries?
Sure. That's kind of a loaded question that I'm going to be doing, I think, a video on soon. Because there's a lot of confusion out there. So lithium batteries, I like to say, last up to 5 times longer than a standard lead acid battery, right? And I'm going to go back to that in a second because I want to answer the first question is about, do you have to drain it down 100% or anything like that? So I think if I tackle that first, it'll make everything else make sense. With lithium batteries, in our specific lineup, there's no worry about any type of memory. So if you take it out and only get to use it for a couple of hours, that's fine. You can bring it back, throw it on the charge. It's not going to hurt anything at all. There's no memory in that. The worst thing you could do is drain your battery down 100% and then let it sit. You never want to store a battery completely dead. So I always say charge it before each use if possible, because there's no reason not to charge it unless you don't have that ability, right? So as far as charge cycles go, that's where there's a lot of confusion out there, because you see batteries rated at 1,000, 2,000. I've seen 5,000 to 10,000 charge cycles. And those numbers are lab-driven numbers that they don't have a whole lot of substance to them. So, how to explain it is they'll say that if you take this lithium battery and charge it 2,000 times, so what they mean by that 2,000 charge cycles. So if I charge it and discharge it 2,000 times, after 2,000 charges, it should have 80% of its life left in it. The problem with us is that we're not in a lab using these items, charging them, discharging them over and over again. We're using them in various conditions that can range from extreme cold to extreme heat. A lot of times, especially in ice fishing, people don't necessarily store them properly, so they may leave them connected to their electronics that drain them down, and then they sit dead for a long time over the summer, or they stay inactive, or batteries just over time will age, and that'll decrease life expectancy as well. So there's a lot of factors in how long a battery will last. If you take good care of your product, it's not uncommon to get 10 plus years out of a lithium battery. If you don't take care of your products, you store them dead, you leave them connected to your electronics for an off season, because even though your electronics are turned off, they will still draw power and they can still drain that battery down. And that can put wear on them. Just quite frankly, there's too many variables. We're not in a 75-degree lab charging and discharging battery. Where they'll come out with this battery gets 10,000 charge cycles. Well, that's a lab-driven number too. If I only charge it to 80% and discharge it to 70%, 10,000 times, that's the same as, charging it fully, discharging it fully 2,000 times. So there's ways you can kind of get different numbers in a lab and advertise that on the product. We don't do that. I don't like to advertise charge cycles. I know that may have been confusing explanation of it, but hopefully that makes sense to some of you out there. Just needless to say, a lead acid battery is made to last typically 2 to 3 years. A lithium battery is built to last 5 to 10 years.
And then we do have Eric asking if there's a warranty on the batteries.
Yeah, so we've got warranties on all of our batteries. Our smaller ones, we do up to 5 years. So in the past, it's just been a 2-year replacement. We've extended that out for 5 years at a proration. So the first 2 years are replaced and prorated after that. Other larger batteries are 10 years.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. And the whole reason why people have asked about that, why our smaller batteries don't have a 10-year warranty like the bigger ones. And that is solely comes down to the application they're used for. Especially in ice fishing, or they're not maintained typically as proper as some of the bigger batteries out there. So they're more likely that people are going to be storing them improperly, charging them improperly, and all of that. And other lithium battery companies that do offer, like these crazy warranties, like I've seen 11-year all the way up to lifetime warranties. They don't cover improper storage, improper charging, and stuff like that. And it's all in the fine print. So we do actually replace the battery, no questions asked, 2 years if there's any issues with it, and then do prorated up to 5. So we're a little bit more lenient on our warranty because we do understand that things do happen. Mistakes are made.
And then you're talking about, as far as care, making sure that you are using the appropriate chargers. So when you do get an amped battery, is that something that comes with? Is that an accessory to look for? Tell us about that.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different battery companies out there that make batteries in different, with different lithium chemistries or different lithium types. So there's another popular one out there that uses an 11.1 volt battery. They advertise it as a 12 volt. Their chargers are 12.5 volts. Can't use that with any of these because it won't put a charge on the battery. It might only put 10% charge on it. So I always say, make sure you're getting the right battery or the right charger for your battery. So we have two different types. So we have a 12.8 volt battery, and that's your most common, like our 7.5, 15 amp hour, then 20 and 30 amp hour. They're 12.8 volt batteries. They require a 14.6 volt charger. And we typically sell those separate. We do have a Shields exclusive that they're doing a 15 amp hour battery charger. It's the only time they're included. But typically with that, you have to buy the charger separate. And the reason being is because that's the most common lithium battery out there is a 12.8 volt. So a lot of times people already have the charger. They don't want 30 chargers for the 30 batteries. So we don't require people to buy them, but I recommend it if you don't have our charger, buy that. We have 14.8 volt batteries as well. That's in our 19 amp hour, 32 and 48 amp hour. Those we include a charger just because it's not a common voltage. It requires a 16.8 volt charger to charge. So you can't interchange these chargers. So the ones that are not common are 14.8 volts. We include it. Everything else we do not. Sold separate. So.
And then you had kind of started in that conversation talking about, other batteries out there and what they do in their charges and all that. So, I mean, I guess as far as navigating the field of lithium batteries, one of the things I'm hearing from you is that they might not all be created equal.
Yeah. There are, wow. And, in ice fishing, there's not many companies who see the reason to enter it because they're not familiar with it or they don't think it's big enough to get into. And I'm completely fine with that. But it avoids a lot of the confusion because the more that are out there, the more, mixed information you can kind of get. And it can confuse you. But, from us to other lithium battery companies out there, we're pretty much the only one who's engineered the products for ice fishing, forward-facing sonar, and that. So the other companies, they have batteries that have been used for other things and then have gone into that industry, or they've come into the industry a little bit later. And I don't want to say they're bad, and I don't want to knock anybody down. But to put an 11.1 volt battery out there, advertise it as a 12 volt, there are really big performance factors. Our 15 amp hour battery in 12.8 volt will blow away the 11.1 volt 15 amp hour battery in performance. This will sit at 13 volts while discharging, where the 11.1 volt battery starts at 12.5 and then drains down to 7 volts. So there's a lot of efficiency factors that come into play with that, and that's something we don't like to get into. We like to make sure that we're putting highest quality product out there. We don't like to falsely advertise anything with the products. You're seeing some stuff, I call it, I don't know. They're getting creative with like USB ports on them now. And it's not a bad idea, and we could have done that a long time ago, but have not, because on those USB ports in this industry, you're going to get water on this battery or snow on this battery, and if that gets in that USB port, not only is that USB port probably going to be shot, but they're not sealed going into the battery, so that water and that snow will eventually turn into water. Will get into the battery and damage it, or it could be dangerous. So we've torn them apart, looked at it, and says, I would not want to put this around water. So we haven't done anything like that. We came out with a separate USB device you can mount on the front of your sonar that connects to our batteries. So we've come out with accessories to do that. But we just feel that the way we engineer the product, it's specific to fishing and ice fishing in general, just really made to withstand cold temperatures, a lot of abuse, and shouldn't be harmed by the elements.
Shouldn't be harmed by the elements. Here's a question about the limits of your warranty. What if their battery's sitting on the bottom of the lake?
That sucks. I hope that doesn't happen. In fact, it's only happened once with us. Honestly, we were so impressed that customer fished it out and sent it back to us that we swapped it out for them. No lithium battery company is really going to warranty a battery that's been physically abused, misused, or you're probably not going to fish out one on the bottom of the water. So it's not like, most are going to swap it out. I mean, I was impressed with this one person that did it, but yeah, I mean, that's a pretty rare case. I don't think anybody out there would cover that you lose your jig on the bottom of the lake. I don't think, I don't think jig manufacturer is going to cover it for you, but I'll tell you what, there's not many times we've had to say no to people as long as they're not taking advantage of us. We've probably been known to be the most reasonable company to work with. We want to make sure that all of our customers are taken care of. So we've seen some very interesting cases out there, but the thing is the most common issue people have with batteries, it's misuse or not using it for what it's intended for. So if there's ever doubt, ask because we can tell you, because you don't want to use this 15 amp hour battery to run your trolling motor on your boat. People have tried it, and you might go a little ways with it, then it's going to cut out because they have technology built in to protect the battery, and using like a small tiny battery on a trolling motor is just not the right application. The battery is going to shut itself down to protect the components inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a funny you mentioned that, because I do have which one is it? Probably a 15 amp hour battery, because my department bought a few batteries from you a number of years ago to run some of our electronics at my work. For those of you that don't know, I'm in natural resources. So we were out mapping a lake and our lead acid battery died. And so I had my power box that was running the Humminbird while we were lake mapping. I hooked the trolling motor up to it. Did get us back to shore, but it did keep cutting out. but the battery was fine. Like you said, it cuts out for a little bit, and then it kind of, I don't know if it resets or something. Nothing was hot, nothing, it just didn't like that much draw. But we did get back to shore, so that was nice.
Yeah. With lithium, you can only put so much into it and take so much out of it. That's why lead acid batteries don't last long in most cases. People drain them too far or too low, right? Or they try to take more out of it than they're made to handle, and that puts a lot of wear on them. So they're completely protected. So 15 amp hour battery, on this one you can actually draw 15 amp hour or 15 amps out of it, which I don't know, what is that, 60 Vexilars could run off of this at once before it would kick in, right? I mean, that's a lot. It's made for smaller applications. But yeah, if you try to pull it, if you try to run a trolling motor on it, it's going to kick out once you get into a higher speed, just because it's too much of a draw that could damage the product. So yeah, that's that is definitely nice to nice to have in it, because that's why the batteries can last so long, because they're fully protected from misuse, so to say.
And then we actually have a whole bunch of questions here that are about charging. So I'm just going to throw them at you, and I'm going to start with the newest. So Conrad, hang tight. Stan is asking, can you address the protocol for using in cold weather? So I just am assuming that you are an ice fisherman, that we can use this in the extreme cold. But then as far as coming home and then being safe to charge, do we have to warm them up before we charge them?
Yep, that's a very good question. So with lithium batteries, as far as discharging goes, the cool weather doesn't have as much of an impact on them as you would think. Heat actually has more of a negative impact on lithium batteries than cold temperatures. So, I mean, we've safely used them in temperatures colder than -30, and you'll safely use them in extreme cold temperatures like that. I can tell you that if you let one of these batteries sit out in the cold overnight in the back of your truck, and it's -20 out or -30 out, and you go to use it the next day, the operating time's not going to be the same as if you had that in a warm place, took it out, and used it for the entire day in -20 to -30. So And a lot of that just comes down to is when you're using a battery, they naturally heat themselves through resistance. So while you're using it, that battery pack is actually internally kind of heated. As far as the charging side of it goes, that's where it's more important. It's not necessarily going to be unsafe. We have a safety protection built into them, but the best thing to do is get your battery above freezing before you charge a lithium battery. And I recommend that for any battery out there. And if you can bring that inside of your house, let it, or inside of a heated garage and let it warm up to, at least an hour or two before, to get it up to room temperature or above freezing, that is the most ideal. Charging a lithium battery below freezing can be done. And because of the quality of cells used, you can technically do that at a lower charge rate without damaging them. But to get the most out of your battery, try to charge it above freezing, bring it up to room temperature before doing that, and you'll definitely get a longer life expectancy out of them.
And then back up to Conrad's question. About charging in the off season. So we're just getting off the off season here, right? So kind of coming up to winter, but how often, well, let's just read it. Do you require charging during the off season? So I know you said don't leave it dead. But how often do you need to charge it, and how often do you check yours during the off season? Like, do you need to check it to make sure that it's still good?
Yeah. Well, I mean, ideally, if you can use that battery year round, that's always the best, right? To keep them active, that's always the best. But you're going to get off season, whether it's, you're taking your batteries out of your boat for the winter, or in ice fishing, you're storing them for the summer. The best thing to do is make sure that your batteries have a charge on them. So don't store it dead. One nice thing about the lithium products we have here is that in a given month in storage, they might only lose up to 2% of their battery capacity, right? So in 6 months, you might only lose 10 to 15% of that battery's capacity, which is not bad at all. So if you had that battery fully charged, or even at 50% charge, you're nowhere close to being fully depleted for the end of the season. Now, I like to say, if you can, every 60 days, put a lithium battery on the charger, right? Put it on for 10 minutes. Just kind of keep some activity going there, bring that battery voltage up a little bit. I mean, honestly, I don't recommend going more than 6 months. I've had people go years, and they were able to, plug the charger in, battery came back to life and worked just fine. But I don't recommend that. That will cause, wear on that battery, so you won't get the same, 9 out of 10 times, it may work, but that one, you don't want to be that one time person where it doesn't work. So it's just best to every 3 months, at least every 6 months, put, some type of activity on it, whether it's a use, charge. That's going to be the most ideal. And I think the most important thing, more so than putting a charge on in the off season, is do not store it attached to your electronics. Even if you have a switch on your unit, I've seen so many times you're like, oh, you know what, my switch got bumped and it got left on. Electronics draw power when they're not in use, right? There's a parasitic draw, so they will drain a battery down. For example, a live scope, I've drained a 60 amp hour battery down just running that black box and live scope in less than a month and a half. So they will drain them down. It can drain them down quickly. So just disconnect your positive or negative terminal on it if you're going to put it in storage, or just completely disconnect it and put it on the shelf so you can remember to charge it down the road.
And then on, I guess, the other side of this question, there are those people who want to over love their equipment, and we get to ice season and then people start to try to strap hand warmers to the outsides, or, all these different things. Do we need to worry about doing stuff like that?
So let's talk about lithium in general there. So I did see a company came out with this little case you can buy. I saw it at the Blaine show, and you could put it was kind of made to put all your drill batteries in, and you plug it into the wall. And I guess the way it works is that it stays heated even after you had it plugged in and warmed up, stays heated for an extended period of time. So you can take it out, keeps your batteries warm. On your drill batteries, I would try to keep them warm, because if you've ever had that drill battery in your, or even a Strike Master battery, you know, sitting in the back of your truck overnight, you go out, you're not going to get as many holes out of it as if you had that battery warmed when you took it out and then started using it. With these, it's completely different. Drills draw so much power that when they're extremely cold, that's where you lose performance. With these, your electronics draw so little power compared to like a drill, that natural heating inside of them will keep that battery, so to say, warm as you're using it, so you don't lose as much of the operating time out in the ice. So it's not important that you keep this in a warmer, you know, I would just say is that bring your electronics inside, right, at night, especially if you're going out the next day, and not to store your batteries out in the cold for long periods of time, because when you go to use them, they're not, you know, if they weren't warmed up, they, you know, you may not get the right performance out of them. But drill batteries, I think it's more important to keep those warm. And I like that little box idea. I don't know how well that works, but looking to see how that company does here in long run, because I kind of like that concept.
And then a few more care questions here. This is great. Best way to protect the power connections from rain, snow, ice, etc.
Your power connections are not, you know, I don't think that's that big of an issue. And batteries in general, there's dielectric grease you can buy, and that's good for any type of electrical fitting, whether it's the harness, you know, from your trailer going into your vehicle. You know, if you're not using dielectric grease for stuff like that, start. Because with rolled salt and all that can cause corrosion, bad connection. That's why those connectors, you can see, they often get corroded. With these batteries, they don't get, I think, really, I mean, they'll get wet, but I've not seen too many issues. I've seen it more so in salt water. You know, if you don't have dielectric grease in your connectors, you can get corrosion. But that's not a bad idea, is that if you're going to be connecting any battery to any piece of electronics that's going to be around moistures, use the dielectric grease on it. Basically, you put your connection on, and it's like a Vaseline that you can just put around it. And what it does is when water is introduced to it, it kind of whisks it away. And then you just never have to worry about water, you know, around your connectors.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's kind of what we do, because almost all of our batteries are in a case.
Yeah.
So I always keep them in the truck, actually. Jeez, cat.
I'm gonna keep going with questions. There's one from Ryan, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if I understand it, so let me know if you do, Matt. Ryan says, if I have a competitor's lithium battery in a 12.8 charger, would it work with an amped battery? Are we talking about the charger?
I think so.
Or the product?
It depends. So if it's a 12.8 volt lithium iron phosphate LiFePO4 battery, it would need a 14.6 volt charger to fully charge. If it's a 12.8 volt charger, it will not charge your batteries. Those are only for 11 volt batteries, which, like I said, can be advertised as 12 volt. Because our 15 amp hour, for example, I advertise, this is a 12 volt battery. The actual voltage is 12.8. So the 11.1 volt battery companies out there also advertise their batteries as 12 volt. So that's where some of the confusion comes in, but I would not intermix. If you're buying one of our batteries, buy the charger that's recommended for it. Otherwise, if you use like a 12.8 volt charger on a 12.8 volt battery, you might only charge this battery up 10 to 20%. Because they require 14.6 volts, because they will technically charge up to 14 to 14 and a half volts, and then a battery then rests down to a lower voltage. Not to confuse you, but a 12.8 volt battery after a full charge is going to be at about 13.5 volts or higher.
Okay. I'm reading a few more questions here, I guess.
Mhm.
If anybody has last second questions, get them in here. Otherwise, we are honestly almost nearing the end of the
Holy
show here.
smokes.
Yeah, I know. This time is flying by. That's why I was like stumbling over my words. But Conrad is asking, when maintained and used properly, how long do you estimate your batteries lasting?
Like overall life. I think we
Sure.
covered that earlier in the show. I think
Yeah.
there was a lot of like variables to it, and Matt did mention if you keep an eye on the Amped Outdoors YouTube, I'm assuming, and probably Facebook, he was gonna do a video on all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're going to get into more detail because there's so much confusion out there. So we kind of want to explain it because there's so much misadvertising. I call it false advertising, so to say, on product where they say, 10,000 charge cycles. And no, no one's ever going to get 10,000 charge cycles on it in everyday, with their everyday use. What I'll say is this. So we have two different lithium batteries, and there's pretty much two chemistries that are out there in the ice fishing industry. There's NMC, and then there's lithium iron phosphate, which is LiFePO4, a lot of people call it. The LiFePO4 is a 12.8 volt battery. Those are the ones that you see advertised a lot of times at like 2,000 plus charge cycles. If well taken care of, it's not uncommon to get 10 years, sometimes even longer out of them. The NMC lithium is a little bit different. That's what's used in cordless drills, laptops, and a lot of stuff that everybody has in their home today. That's what we use in our 14.6 volt batteries, like our 19, 32, and 48 amp hour. It's NMC. Those are typically advertised. Some manufacturers are 200 to 400 charge cycles. That's pretty common. We use a real high end. We use two different types of cells, including Panasonic, which is a higher end one, kind of like your Milwaukee drill batteries. Those are rated up to about 1,000 charge cycles. What I would say is that's traditionally a 5-year battery. So if hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. That 11.1 volt that's out there, that is an NMC. Those are typically at a 200, 400 charge cycle battery, but maybe upwards to 5 years if well taken care of as well.
Awesome.
And Conrad says, awesome. Sorry that he was late getting on, but no, that's exactly what we're here for is you can replay these episodes and they turn into podcasts later. And so even if you are driving to a place like this Wisconsin Fishing Expo, you are going to be able to review all this information in your car and then come and ask Matt all these questions in person. And so this is going to be perfect.
And if you don't happen to be able to catch Matt at a show or catch all the information on this show, definitely check out the Amped Outdoors YouTube because Matt's done a lot of good videos on there with a lot of like detailed information. I've had to reference it a few times. So it's a great place to just check it out, even if you're just, if you're interested in the batteries, but you don't really necessarily want to get into it with, at a show. Maybe you can learn a little bit and then go ask some questions. So that's cool too.
Yeah, we've added top of our page a video and how-to section. So it's just more of an educational section with articles and then some that link back over to our video. So check that out or reach out to us, whether it's through our live chat online during the day or, sales at ampedoutdoors.com. We always respond within 24 hours to our emails. This busy show season, our phone support hours are going to be reduced, and that's just the way it's going to be. We will get people taken care of in a timely fashion, but we want to make sure that we can get out there and mingle at the shows as much as we can.
And with show season coming up, there's a few questions about if you're going to be having any kind of deals or anything coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So people ask a lot of times about Black Friday. Black Friday stuff, it's not really around batteries. Because we work with a lot of major retailers out there. We have what's called MAP pricing. So we don't really authorize sales. Everybody's going to be the same price no matter where you go. You might see, if you want the best deals, go to a show. Whether it's a Shields Ice Fest, St. Paul show, we got Sioux Falls coming up. And of course, the first time we're doing an ice show in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Ice Fishing Expo. I cannot wait for that. I'm just excited to see, just new people, new people, a new crowd, and go to those shows. We'll have some amazing deals this year. We have stocked heavily. Our retailers are stocking extremely heavily. Lithium batteries are just booming right now. So we'll run some amazing specials at the show. Hit those up. Their pricing should be the same at pretty much every single show. So it's not like one is going to be better than the other. Except for the Ice Fishing Expo, we are actually doing, I think we got 5 battery giveaways that we're doing at that show. So that's going to be pretty exciting.
Nice.
No partnership there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That is really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness. I want to ask if there's anything else that did we miss anything?
No, I think everybody covered it all. Yeah, and if there's something out there that somebody, like I said, sales@ampedoutdoors.com, shoot a message over there. There's no question that, that is stupid or we cannot answer or don't feel comfortable answering, because I think we've heard it all by now. But we'll help you out in any way possible. Whether it's our product, competitor's product, anything, we try to be as open and honest as possible.
Awesome.
That's perfect. And normally at this point, I ask you to remind us like website and Facebook page, but I feel like you've done that. And definitely people can see your logo and everything behind. So just search Amped Outdoors or come see us at the expo. And, to everybody at home, thank you so much for being here for this episode, because you guys are always a ton of the fun. All these questions and comments and things along the way. Love that. But otherwise, Matt, thanks so much for being around tonight and talking about all this.
Yeah, anytime. I appreciate it. I know it's been a while since I've been on your show. We got to make sure we do it annually, but this will be I look forward to seeing you guys at the show, and thanks everybody for the questions. They were great. Helps give me a little refresher too before we hit our first big show this weekend.
Perfect.
And with that, we're looking forward to seeing you at the expo, and hopefully people at home at the next episode of The Night Bite.
Night, everybody.